Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a big shout out to Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, theflatearthchannel.com, Chris Hillman, excuse me, NA Literalist, Steve ALM, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, excuse me, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a couple of people in live stream, so I'll raise the mic on them while I set up for today's live show.
Then you bring in number 2, gas pressure in a container. That's over right there in one argument. And then you bring in the lack of Earth-based Coriolis, because if we're on the ball and we're spinning, well then there's a way to measure the spin. If you're on the non-inertial reference frame, the Earth, which is one of the 2 necessary reference frames to even observe a Coriolis deviation, an apparent deviation.
That's what I was saying. That's what I said.
Yeah, so they're over.
I said, so,
it's over.
I
with
said
those
all
3.
of this stuff. Can you demonstrate any curvature on Earth?
No, they can't.
Only.
So then what are you telling me about the stars for?
Who's that? What were you saying? Only what?
Only some places, not everywhere.
Only in some places, not everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Downey's Bridge.
All right. Well, I'm looking out my window here from my bedroom office, and I could see a hill, I could see a valley, and I could see mountains, small mountains,
Lake
not big mountains.
It's the only place where there's curvature.
I almost can see Leamington.
I thought I could finish a statement without being rumpused.
Oh, I thought you stopped. I'm sorry.
No, I'm seeing topography here. That's not what we're talking about, is it now?
Nathan, you're speaking, but nobody can hear you.
I can hear you. Do you hear me?
You may not be speaking.
You may be doing something which is causing his thing to turn green.
Well, when 10th, you're coming through his, right?
Yeah, I could hear you right now.
No, I mean, you're coming through Nathan's as well, because you guys are in Google.
Yeah, I'm coming through the panel, yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, you got to get some bass in your voice. Forget about that close talking. Get up on the mic and speak.
Hey, man. I'm the voice God gave me, brother.
I can't hear you.
I can hear it. So that's it. It's over with those 3 questions. No one's got a rebuttal.
Well, we can go home.
It's over. The Earth is not a sphere in the middle of a vacuum of space. Rotating.
These guys got nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's been nothing but bullshit for the past, I don't know, well, since I can remember, but it's been pretty bad lately. They won't even come in the room.
Yeah. Well, they come, but when they're held to task with logic, they lose. When they want to, dream with fantasy, they got to go somewhere else because we're not going to put up with it here. When they redefine science to fit their Narnia world, we're not going to put it up here.
My favorite's when you get the newcomers that coming in and aren't used to being held to task like that. They're just appalled that you would have them prove what they said, or It's just,
yeah, there's been a few of them, huh? Well, everything they say comes with a pre-assumption, because even when I talk to normies who I meet for the first time, say a friend who brings a friend over, and we end up talking about it, everything that they say is a pre-assumption that we're already on this thing, the way the heliocentric model has been, shoved down our faces through TV and movies and all the different means of communication all these years. So I just remember fighting it when I first heard it, saying this doesn't make sense when I was a young kid. And then these people, I said, well, did you ever fight it? Did you ever think it was silly when they told you were spinning and you didn't feel spin, or did you just accept it? I mean, I fought it. I told the teacher, I don't think we're spinning. I told him. He told me to stop asking questions.
Yeah, I was the same way. I remember the first day that was shown a globe. I remember like it was yesterday, and just thinking there was something wrong with this picture.
Yeah,
I remember not.
Yeah, it's called reality. Your reality didn't match it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
all my
it's
life,
not.
I've been chasing aliens and UFOs and been into all that kind of shit, and you come across this information, and you realize that's what's been wrong. That's what's wrong. That's what I've been missing. Was for me anyway.
Yep. The premise. Yeah, they want to go talk about Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. Like, I really give a care. First, show me the motion.
Yeah, it's a bunch of horse manure.
Yeah,
well, that's useful for something. Horse manure now.
He used to be a bigger UFO geek than Tyler from Secure Team 10, dude.
UFOs.
So, man, I'm going to change the subject up.
Acronym is it unidentified flying objects still?
I think UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
UAF.
What is it? UAF now or UAP?
UAP.
And what does it stand for?
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Oh wow! Got another name for it.
Oh, I thought you said UAF. I was like, that's supposed to be University of Auburn football.
I'm glad he didn't go to UFC.
So, hey, 10.
Undefined fake corona.
10th man.
Alta. Yeah.
So, I got to go pick up my car today. So give me a range. What do you think it's going to cost me?
What kind of? I know we've been talking about cars, but what exactly did you have done on it?
A water pump. He said something about his sensor, and I know I had to get a serpentine belt because the belt went. So
okay, I would say you got new water. You know what it is? You got new water pump.
Get it fixed. Yeah, water pump. Well, I don't
A
know
new
because
serpentine belt.
yeah, and then he said something about a sensor. One of the sensors was out.
Okay, I would say I do most of my own car work, but I'll take a guess. Hang on. Under $450.
You think so? I hope so.
I was going to say 350, but I don't know New York.
I hope so. I hope so because I looked it up, and one of them says 800, one of them says 1,200. I'm like, oh my god! Because I look
What
up
kind
the
of
part.
water? What kind of water pump do you have? What kind that pumps out Hoover Dam, or it just runs the car?
I don't know. It's an '04 Mercedes Benz
Oh, Mercedes. I
ML500.
forgot. Forgot to ask you
Yeah,
the
but
make of the car.
I looked the part up, and it's like $45. So I know I'm going to get hit with labor. They charge $125 an hour, mechanics. So I'm praying it's under.
I'll stick to under 450.
I'm hoping it's under 600.
And the winner is.
I'll find out as soon as he calls me. But I need the car because I got to get around to look at other cars. I got nobody to ask. Who am I going to ask? Every car I'm looking at is 2 hours away, an hour away. So I need this car to find another car.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't drive anymore. A couple years ago, I had an epileptic seizure behind the wheel and
Wow.
ran my car right into the front of the house of the neighbors. I'm not allowed to drive, really.
That's all right. Way back in the day, there was a guy that drove through Dunkin' Donuts right up to the counter, got out of his car and said, "Give me 2 coffees to go, please."
Oh, gosh.
Any good epileptic jokes?
No, I'm not off the top of my head.
Got one?
Please.
Depends how sensitive you are. Are you sensitive to jokes about your epilepsy?
No, not at all.
Perfect. What do you do if an epileptic has a fit in the bath?
What do you do when an epileptic has a fit in the bath?
Throw in the washing.
What was that?
Throw in the washing. That's terrible. I'm sorry.
I got it.
I apologise to audience members.
I got it.
My cousin's epileptic and she has exactly the same problem, which is fighting to be able to drive. So she's on again, off again driver.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for her. Every time she has a fit, she's got to declare it, and they just take her license off her.
Yep, it's crap. I'll go a whole 2 years without one, and all of a sudden some grandma comes.
It surprises me. I assume you're of the same sort of mindset that she's willing to do it. In other words, she knows the risks, having had a fit, that are involved with driving. Therefore, she willingly gives up her license. Pretty much, she knows they're going to take it off her.
Oh yeah.
But you just know that you don't want to be running somebody over. So you've obviously, in your own mind, going, well, I shouldn't be driving then, which is just, that's a horrible, I'm stuttering around these words because to take driving away from me would be like taking a leg.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, but yeah, I'm of the same mindset. I don't know how I'd be able to live with myself if I ever hurt my kids or anyone else. So I'm willing to just say screw it.
Yeah, exactly. But crappy situation, eh? Well, having fits is crap. But, as a byproduct of the already crap situation you find yourself in, you get your license taken off you. You can't drive. What a pile of crap. It's just a horrible situation.
Yeah, it gets pretty gnarly sometimes. Like, I've had one before. And this is probably too much information, but where you actually let go of your bodily functions when you're in the middle of the fit. I ended up pissing myself.
That's fairly common, actually. You're more concerned about swallowing your own tongue as opposed to whether or not you crap yourself. I'd be more worried about suffocating on my own tongue if I was having a seizure.
Yeah.
Not that I have seizures, but you know what I'm saying.
Totally. Yeah, that's what my wife was always looking for whenever it happened.
Yeah, in other words, defecating yourself is the least of your concerns, really, if you ask me. Not in the slightest bit anything to be embarrassed about either. If you're having a seizure, you just don't want to die. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be laughing, but it's one of those... It's on the edge of... It's so terrifying that you laugh about it. One of those.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, we had a gentleman when I was younger in our youth group Bible study that met on a weekly basis. He was epileptic, and many occasions it would happen right there, right in the middle of the study, and we'd have to make sure he didn't swallow his tongue. We'd get people away and just let it do its thing, and so this happened, on a regular basis too, because he had to be driven there and everything else. So it was a tough time for him.
Wow.
I remember we had a beach day
a
one day and happened at the beach with him.
That's another thing that's scary is getting in the pool. I always think about it whenever I'm in the pool, so I try and stay in the shallow end and hold on to the edge.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be at a conscious level, so something you're going to be acutely aware of, which is why I empathise. It's a similar deal with people with Tourette's, if not worse. They've got to deal with having to explain themselves constantly. Just what a pain in the arse that would be.
You do it on a daily basis with ballers.
Yeah, but I'm not justifying what is perceived to an outsider as just bad behaviour. Well, obviously this isn't paralleled with seizures, but by the same token, it's something that both will have to be acutely aware of for the majority of the time. There's no off switch or, I've just forgotten about it for a bit. You're going to be aware of it.
Do you know someone with Tourette's?
No, I don't know anybody with Tourette's. It's just one of those things that you just sort of investigate on YouTube. I've experienced a couple of people with Tourette's. I don't know them personally, but I've known of people with Tourette's and therefore looked into it just out of vague curiosity. And some of the stories on YouTube from people with Tourette's describing their experiences, or even giving vlogs, obviously YouTube, are just absolutely heart wrenching. This one dude was describing his flight, and it's in an age of terrorism and all the rest of it, and all he can do is tick bomb, 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 and he's having to explain to people. And he explained that at the beginning of the flight, he stood up and explained to the whole the whole plane what he was and what he was going to be doing, and just not to be scared. Can you imagine having to be that person that has to stand up in front of a plane full of people? Some people are, shy of audiences generally, and just explain, I'm going to do something that you're going to find disturbing for the entirety of this flight. Please forgive me. Can you imagine having to do that? How embarrassing it would be, and having to do it on an almost daily basis. Just heart wrenching.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Sounds horrible because you could. I mean, I would think that they're already introverts. They're already kind of like outgoing people anyway because of what they have to deal with, and then having to do that publicly oh man, it's horrible.
Well, that was the impression I got. It seemed like a lot of the people, especially on YouTube, they've obviously got the same sort of YouTube aspect. They want to be extroverted to a certain degree, but for most of them, it seemed like in most scenarios that's having to be forced upon them, and it seemed like an uncomfortable scenario for anybody. Even though, obviously, in this particular dude's instance, he was a fairly cool dude, to be fair to him. But you could tell by the way he's telling the story that it's, for him to do it is heart-wrenching for him and unpleasant. But he's sharing his experiences and just detailing this story of being on a plane, and you're like, yeah, man, that's crap. Anyway, this is very, very off the beaten path. Good job we're in the pre-show. All kinds of crazy stuff you can find on YouTube. I had on one of the playbacks from one of the other pre-shows, Neil, I heard you quote George Carlin, although I didn't actually catch it when you said it live. You said it's a big club and you're not part of it.
You're not part of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote.
I used to watch him when I was much younger, and obviously most of the jokes went over my head. Not that I realised it at the time. Now, listening to a lot of the stuff which I'd already watched, you go, wow, this guy spits a lot of truth, eh? And he doesn't care. That's probably why he does it in the way he does it. You know, it's not necessarily that he's paralleling things intentionally that we talk about, but his general attitude is one of, I'm not really telling you this because I want you to change. I have a very similar outlook. I'm not telling you this because I want you to convert to understanding that the Earth is obviously and observably flat. Quite the contrary. You know, the discussion's interesting, but should you leave and not be converted? And George Carlin's attitude's the same. He's like, I'm not telling you this because I want to change the world. In fact, I've heard him say on many occasions, I want to watch the whole place burn. You know what I mean? In other words, he just doesn't care. But he's more than happy to tell you how it is and say, you know, you've got people who are in charge of basically everything, and they're ruling the way you perceive your life, let alone how you run your life. So, you know, but most people are completely unaware of it.
He was on point.
He was spot on.
Dead on. Yeah, I don't understand how he had such a long career like that. I mean, I do understand because he's talented, he's hilarious and all that, but to get away with saying some of the things he was saying, and
well, I'll tell you why. Because, like me, when I watched George Carlin, let's say it's 10 years ago, I don't know how long, but a while back, let's just say, I took in every word, listened, heard what he said and laughed, and then got on with my day, just like he was describing, right? But I didn't consciously think what I'm doing is going through the motions he's describing. In other words, you relate to what he's describing, but then you play it out. Now it's not like I'm listening to George Carlin. I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree. Yeah, I have detached from that and that and that and all the rest of it. Not listen, laugh, and then do it, which is what the majority of people will do. Oh yeah, we're just like that, aren't we? Yeah. That's how he gets away with
it. He was interviewed by I think Johnny Carson. It's a YouTube clip actually. It's worth watching. He talks about his style of comedy and why he does what he does and says what he says.
Yeah, people should watch more George Carlin.
It's just deception, and he's pointing to the one layer of it or two layers of it or many layers in deception anyway. So there he is using the stage and comedy to do it. And you're using your platform here to do it. That's where the pride comes in. No one wants to be thinking they were deceived all these years. And then when someone points it out, boom, instant fight.
I think that's an early stage. We don't necessarily see that here so much. I think.
No, not here, because this is a show about it and you have to consciously come here. But I'm just saying, just if it's a topic of discussion with normies or it doesn't matter, just any subject will do. The minute you say, I think they cheat in sports, and the guy's a sports fan, boom, instant argument. Or you say, they have lied to us about our cosmology, boom, instant fight.
Football is not fixed.
You don't think, huh?
day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man in G+, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, 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 hello.
Morning.
Good morning, very enthusiastic. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not even from Minden, Nevada.
Nothing here in Orange County.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Interesting word. They apply it to many things, but no scientific evidence that it is what they say it is.
Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How's everybody?
Very well. How are you?
Chocolate.
Not too bad. Busy at work, but you know, I'm here. I'm alive. It's Friday.
It is.
Beautiful thing.
Any evidence or any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not even from Dr. Beckett.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No
What is the
evidence
sun?
for the distance.
That yellowy orangey thing in the sky? Neil? Hey, Owen.
Hello?
Hello. Good to have you.
Yeah, you're on. No distance, no evidence for that distance, but there is evidence for Arwen. He's here.
Excellent.
Distance to Arwen?
The distance to the Arwen. It's just over there.
He's over there.
It's over there, yeah. Not an actual size.
He's over there.
I do have an actual size, I think.
Not for me. Depends on the monitor you're on.
Yeah, well, I'm not a hologram, despite some conspiracy theorists from 5 years ago.
For me, you're just a load of pixels.
Yeah, you're a pixel on my end, Arwen.
Oh, right.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No, but there was a
Gobstoppers
recent story
here.
about the molten core of the moon, though.
Molten core of the moon? I'm pretty certain the core of the moon is completely cooled in their rhetoric.
Well, that's what they're saying right now, but you know what? They might just discover that there was still some molten stuff in there after.
Yes.
Maybe it kick-started itself.
Yeah, you can make up anything you like, is what you're saying, basically, isn't it, Arwen?
Well, if the atmosphere is still surrounding the moon, then maybe whatever is keeping it there is also preventing it from cooling down as rapidly.
Therefore, you can formulate a hypothesis that it's still got a molten core.
Right. Well, their original assessment of how old it was based on certain cooling rates that they would presuppose. Well, I'm basically overlaying a conception that maybe, yeah, there's something that is actually making the Earth possible to be a ball and atmosphere sticking to it versus outer space. If that thing causes that to be possible, then maybe it will also decrease the cool down of the moon.
Oh man, that was a mouthful.
Right, and it might actually correlate to moonlight potentially causing entropy to proceed more rapidly. Maybe that is the inverse on the presupposed physical moon origin of the light.
Just for the audience's benefit, Arwin is available for hire if you'd like heliocentric stories. Just contact Arwin at arwin.com.
There's no arwin.com.
I know, I was just saying it for humorous effect. You've previously punted out your services as a heliocentric wordsmith.
True. Just subscribe to my channel. ARWIGN.
Good plug. Not bad. Not bad. Moving on. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Black Swan.
At best, we've disproven it.
Oh, then there goes your whole cottage industry.
Depending on what time of day and what day you're going out to measure it.
What kind of day?
Yeah, you know the story of Alberoni. He went and did the measurements. I bet you if he went on Monday, he would have different measurements versus going there on Wednesday or Saturday.
Just because so Monday suck, right?
It happenstance that he went there.
Alberoni.
Hold on, guys. Don't rumpus him. Go on, Rebel.
Yeah, I was just so lucky that he went there, like, I don't know, I think it was Tuesday in the morning, and we got that radius. God forbid if he went there, like, in the afternoon or something, would have been living on the planet maybe 30 times the size.
Last Tuesday?
Yeah, it's a good day for geometry, is what Rebel's saying. Thank God he went on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm just saying we're so lucky that he went there for that specific day, and if he went there any other day, what time of day, we would have been living on a completely different radius.
Yeah, but 5% off of something you can never see. How was that achieved?
Just don't highlight that nonsense too many times more. The fact that you can't see and measure this position that he's seen and measured.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Does that make sense, right? To be able to see and measure something that you can't see and measure. I mean, what's wrong with you guys?
What I think Alberoni did.
I see and measure shit all the time that I can't see and can't measure.
Is he Italian, Alberoni?
Do you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I hear you.
I don't know.
Right. So what Alberoni did was basically, well, just like the predecessors presupposed the Earth was a globe, and then he was basically the first to really try to prove the geometrical curve. But yeah, he kind of failed, and he said, "Nah, I'm just 5% off." And then I wonder sometimes if he himself kind of would recognize it, that it was a failure, but maybe that those who were paying him were just telling him, "Oh, that's good enough." I wonder if that's the case.
Armin, can I feed that back to you and see if I got it the way you meant it?
Okay.
So he went out there to prove the curvature of the Earth. He saw the apparent horizon on that particular day. And he says, I don't see curve, but based on my presupposition of the radius and the Earth is a ball, I'll just say I came within 5%, even though I never saw it.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That's not. No. He's not trying to come within 5%. It doesn't exist yet. He's measuring it. Therefore, he needs to see it, thinks he's seeing it, he's deriving radius from it, and then further down the line in the rhetoric, we do not see it at all. It only exists in maths, therefore couldn't be measured. But Alberoni's claimed to be measuring it, and that's where we get the R value from.
Right. So he actually failed at measuring it, but he kind of presupposed, calculated it, based on the spherical presupposition, and apparently that was good enough for the investors or whoever made him do that.
Don't say it. What's it? The geometric physical sphere edge of a claim to be globe Earth. That's what is the it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, the thing we can't see doesn't exist, right? It's only in the maths. Side on, Muppet Vision. That's what he's trying to measure. It is the geometric physical sphere edge horizon. We don't have one.
Right.
Well, didn't they always use things disappearing from the bottom up as their proof that that's it right there, but that changes on a daily basis?
Yeah, we haven't got a physical sphere edge for a horizon. We've only got one horizon, and the horizon in their model is a geometric physical sphere edge claim to block boats and buildings. In reality, we do not have a physical sphere edge for a horizon. It's just as simple as that. It's been debunked. It's been shown to be beyond the parameters of physical geometry. Hence, we're now told we don't have one. Well, if we don't have one, you can't measure it. Al-Biruni's story falls to pieces. You can't derive R. You can't then base a refracted horizon on the R value that you can't measure or see. The whole thing implodes. Big shout out to Wire Blues, who's joined as a penguin. So you can actually catch the Uncut and After show. Especially good for people watching on a Friday, as the actual Uncut and After show version of this show, this live show that's going out now, goes out on Sunday. So there's like a couple of days. But it'll be released to members immediately after it's finished recording. So you get to see it at the end of Friday rather than having to wait till Sunday. But thank you very much for joining, Wire Blues. Good to have you as a penguin.
So, Nathan, a changing variable horizon is what we experience, and they need a geometric fixed horizon to match the radius of the sphere, correct?
Not fixed, but physical.
Physical.
There's things that can bring the horizon closer and still be capable of qualification as geometric in the context that they give. But if you had fog, that would bring the horizon closer. That's perfectly acceptable. But it can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet for it to be declared as geometric. Now, that's been debunked with the Black Swan. Therefore, the only rebuttal, because it's debunked, it's not physical geometric, is to say, no, we don't have a physical geometric horizon. That's the response. But from that point on, the rhetoric leading up to their declaration that we can't see a physical sphere edge horizon, the very thing that's claimed to be blocking boats and buildings, falls apart when they try and extend that on to say, well, no, what we actually see is an apparent, redundant term, horizon based on the geometric horizon, and it's been refracted using the R value that we've derived from a physical horizon that we can't see. So the whole thing falls apart.
Interesting, though.
They can't say, after declaring to us that we don't see the geometric horizon, you can't renege on that and go back and say, oh yeah, we've got this boat being hidden by that same horizon that y'all just said we can't see.
What, like precisely what they're doing currently, telling us, oh yeah, here's an example of a horizon blocking something, give us the feet and inches value and why it's gone. In other words, not keeping up to date with the flat earth debate, forgetting the fact that their whole number feet and inches value that they're asking you to qualify relies on them having a physical geometric sphere edge blocking those whole number values that don't account for angular size change. So it's like they've regressed to 2015 to stick their head in the sand. I love it.
They're not following the progression of events. You can't go back. It's like you guys are trying to like decrease entropy, man. You can't do it.
They're not keeping up with the flyer.
Go back in the Monopoly game. Just go back to square one. Start over again.
Well, Monopoly.
No, to go back to Al-Biruni, how did he know that he's measuring a sphere? Like, this is what I'm trying to understand. I mean, the circumnavigation, so-called, wasn't even done until 500 years after he died. Like, where's the notion of the sphere even come to the consciousness to even try and measure it?
Aristarchus. Aristarchus. The progression of events is to assume you're on a sphere by way of Aristarchus seeing shadows on lights in the sky. Assumed to be shadows by way of a spherical Earth becoming the thing that causes the shadow. In other words, it's in the way. Well, that assumption gives you Earth as a sphere. You then take that assumption into the next step, which is to derive the R value, which is where our Al-Biruni bubby comes in.
Do you mean Aristophanes?
No, Aristarchus.
Aristarchus, okay. I see.
So it starts with
but
Aristarchus.
They weren't able to confirm until...
Go on.
So they weren't able to confirm their assumption, quote unquote, until, let's say, Magellan circumnavigated and claimed he circumnavigated the globe?
No, they never confirmed the assumption. All they do from there on in is assume. So from that point on, from Aristarchus on, you have the assumption of sphericity. From that point on, every single claim to be globe proof ever asserted ever will start with the assumption that you're on a sphere to begin with. Everyone, without exception. I used to say, it's 99%. Just holding out for that just slim chance that someone might come along without a begging the question fallacy attached. It's never happened, and I'm going to say it now. It never will happen. From that point on, every claim to be, as you put it, globe proof, or an affirmation or a confirmation, is all assuming the sphere to begin with.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep it within the imagination of the globe people, who I used to be at some point. And number one proof, I'm not even going to NASA, because NASA's all BS. But going back to the way I was thinking, and I hear people thinking, is, what about circumnavigation? But if you establish the chain of events chronologically, it makes no sense, meaning people thought they lived on a globe like Al-Biruni and Aristarchus, thousands and hundreds of years before so-called circumnavigation had happened. So there's a backward chain of events. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Whenever you're dealing with a lie, you end up with a web of deceit as opposed to a nice linear timeline. Well, we definitely have not got a linear timeline with the heliocentric nonsense that we're currently under the idea of in the Western world. We've got a very fragmented timeline that jumps around. At some points during the assertion of a sphere, it's declared that it's been thousands and thousands of years, yet in other instances it's asserted to be about 500 years. Now, if you ask me, it's probably only become really mainstream in about the last 100 years. But that isn't necessarily what it says in the timelines, which is your point, right?
That's right, yes. You mean, if Magellan circumnavigated, which I don't doubt he did, which you circumnavigate around a flat surface, but to claim to have this as a proof of the globe, prior to that not having any instances of circumnavigation, I can't connect. This is what I'm trying to point out for Globers. Like, if you establish this timeline between Al-Biruni and, let's say, Magellan, right? It seems backwards. The Magellan would have to have happened first, to then for Al-Biruni to say, it must be a sphere, and they will calculate it. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, because the assertion with the circumnavigation requires an affirming the consequent and a begging the question fallacy. So if the Earth is a sphere, then we can circumnavigate said sphere thusly. Hey, check it out, we've circumnavigated in the way we said, therefore Earth's a sphere. Well, you're starting with the assumption in your P statement that Earth's a sphere, and you're concluding it based on you being able to do this operation of circumnavigation. Well, that doesn't prove you're on a sphere. It's just begging the question and affirming the consequent. So, no, it doesn't necessarily have to fit in that order in the timeline, because, what, you need to affirm the consequent with a boat trip before you can measure radius? Nah, it's just an affirming the consequent, so it doesn't matter where that fits in the timeline. No offense.
Right, and if I may add onto that a little, you don't need to really do anything in order to, in your mind, presuppose the Earth is a globe. The only thing you need is eyes and a clear night, and then notice that the stars are rotating. that's like a good vantage point to start presupposing the Earth is a sphere. You don't need to measure anything. You could just have this suspicion, and then all these other people have this suspicion, and then you go and set out to somehow prove that suspicion based on the presupposition. And so you don't really need to do anything in order to arrive to that suspicion that the Earth might be a globe. You just need to look up.
Exactly. Well said, Arwin. Very well said.
Thank you.
I disagree. Looking up doesn't tell me anything is spherical. It tells me that it's moving.
You just need to look at anything. Because...
Hold on, Chocolate. One sec. Hold on one sec. No, you're right, Rebel. For you, it doesn't. Now, they're moving, and you can infer the logic. That's all Arwin's saying. And from there, you build upon that presupposition and affirm the consequent, if you're going to use your example with circumnavigation. But the point is, once you've got an idea, you can just build on that presupposition, is all Arwin's saying. I know you say, well, I see the stars moving, but that doesn't tell me I'm moving. Well, no, obviously not. But doesn't mean you can't make the extraction that heliocentrism has, and then from there on in just beg the question, which is all they've ever done.
Exactly.
Yeah, once you've got the idea in your head that it's a sphere, anything you see, you could just say, well, of course that's happening because it's a sphere. Therefore, it's a sphere.
It could even be as crazy as that, yeah, nobody even heard of the idea of the globe, and then somebody opened up some tomb, and now I'm talking about 500 years ago, in some weird, I don't know, remote region, and they find a globe Earth model. Well, they'd never even have to conceive of the shape of the Earth before that, or just refer to the Bible. It's right there. It was worked out somehow, a conception maybe, and then that would absolutely out of nowhere trigger this idea, like, wow, we found a globe. Maybe the Earth is a globe. That would be enough.
Actually, if you find a coffin and you unearth it and you see a ball next to a body, that was just a kid with a toy back then.
No, way to ruin it.
And they're presupposing that it was a globe.
I'm saying is that there could have been heliocentric ideas. Who knows? Maybe even in the times of Egypt. You know, math is probably very ancient. So somebody could have built on that idea, not even doing anything with it, just as a wizardry concept in there.
Hold on,
whatever.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Arwin. So let me get it straight. We've just discussed and detailed how we have a very fragmented timeline for heliocentrism. Right now, we haven't, but we have in the past expanded on that in terms of questioning the validity of even the characters in the narrative, right? Okay. Based on primary source information and the lack thereof, right? However, you just said ancient Egypt, like it's just a matter of fact.
No, I'm just trying to play in what people would get. I'm not saying literally, I'm not trying to be historical here. I'm just giving an example. Heliocentric concepts could have been found from way in the past, and it would be, I don't know how they would approach it. Yeah. But this idea could have arrived earlier because we just see the stars moving in a globe, you know? And how long have mankind been around in order to arrive to that idea and start working on it?
You know? Well, just because something in the past...
Sorry, hold on, just one sec. Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah, I was just trying to affirm what Arvin is saying. He's saying essentially the heliocentric model, mathematical model, could potentially be as old as math.
Maybe.
Ability of man to do math.
It's a possibility. I'm not saying that I have proof for this, historical proof, but you know, people invent all the time and reinvent.
Has anybody shown you that model yet, Rebel?
Showing me. Well, the only pictures that I have of the model is the balls flying around. Not to size, not to scale, obviously.
Yeah. All right, I'll try next time. I'm looking for that model.
I can't wait to see that
with
model.
one yet, but those are the breaks.
When are we going to see it?
There's that patient New
Are we
Yorker.
ever going to see it?
Guys, if I may
Speaking of
give another
model.
example, because this to me is very serious. You do realize that, at least in the exploration days, there were these globes put into classrooms, kind of made a letter, but there were also globes of the heavens, like not of the earth, but of the heavens. Basically, put inside out on a ball so you could see with all the lineup of the stars and all the constellations and all that. So that existed. You know, they had a ball model of that. 500?
No, that's the celestial sphere that they still use today, but it was ancient man's way of mapping the stars, and they had it stuck to a dome. So ancient man thought it was a dome, and the stars were moving within that dome. And the current pseudoscience is going back to that and using it, but changing what they were using it for to how they want to use it.
I don't know. I think, who says they originally used the dome? They might have modeled it out as a dome, but to use it in a ball form is very efficient, because that is kind of how it is visually.
Right. Well, because to the observer on the Earth, that's what it looks like. And so that's why they did that. That was why they had that whole model back then of the sky being a dome and the stars rotating around the Earth.
Right, exactly. Hold on. Can I just imagine a ship's mate goes into the captain's office because he's called for whatever. The captain is taking a look at that star globe, right? And trying to figure out his route or whatever through whatever plan. And the shipmate just looks in that ball and just like, what is that? You know, that could be the start of them thinking, wow, he's orienting. He's using a ball. Does that mean that the Earth might be a ball? Because I've already been told by everyone that there's no edge of the Earth to fall off. You know, and I've never experienced that in my travels. You know, see, it's not that hard to get the ball in there somehow.
Well, that's what they did. You're right. Back then, they assumed the Earth was flat with this dome and the stars moving, and now they say we're a ball within this celestial sphere, and the celestial sphere is imaginary, and they even say it, and it's infinite.
Go on, Rebel. Hold on one second.
It's easy to change it.
Hold on. Go on, Rebel. I can see you trying to get a word in 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. No, it's just Arvin. When Arvin said somebody imagining falling off the edge of the Earth while contemplating the Earth being potentially a ball, my question would be, you know, to even have the thought of falling off, you would have to construct a model in your mind of something being in somewhere where you can fall off, you know, like space. You know, the idea of space I don't think existed until recently.
Right. I was also going to pipe up when Arwin said that, but for a different reason, which is to say, when Arwin juxtaposed the edge, meaning the edge of the flat Earth model that you're now referencing, what went through my mind is, all right, so what we will do is turn the horizon into an edge.
Well, it would not look. I don't think the edge. I think the edge is basically an ancient misunderstanding that was later kind of propagandized to prevent people from wandering off in the sea, you know, on their own, from finding the ball to try and escape the island of England, for example.
No. I totally disagree. I think it's absolutely structured so that their weakest part of their argument, which is what's on screen now, this is the geometric sphere edge, the bit that's blocking boats and buildings in the distance. Well, that physical edge is what we're challenged to provide because it's the weakest part of their argument. They haven't got a physical sphere edge for horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. So what do they do to get around that? Well, they assert that they have got an edge while simultaneously asking us for our edge. But they don't call their edge an edge. They call their edge, their sphere edge geometric horizon, they call that edge Earth curve. Don't call it an edge. Don't say the boats are going over the edge of Earth. Say they're going over Earth curve. Well, simultaneously asking us where our edge is and why boats aren't falling off the edge of it.
You're right, Nathan, but that's kind of the last 30 years. I've been talking about like 200 to 400 years ago. And I think because of the natural abilities of sight, you see kind of a border, the horizon, and it might give you a feel like things might fall off. It's like an intuitive thing. And yeah, people were not educated with that sort of shit. They just weren't. So folklore interpretations would go around. I think really that is where the original edge came from. It was not well thought out. And then later, when, that was probably propagandized by the government to really say, you don't go anywhere or you fall off the edge. Just like that. And that will work.
It's so ridiculous. I think the idea that there's a place where there is no more Earth, you just fall off into some void,
right?
That is some
only
really
works when you don't think about it, and that's why it worked, because they didn't think about it. It was just superficial nonsense from ground up with people that were absolutely not educated to think at all. That's where it came from. That was not.
Yeah, but the same token, you can say people thought there's a wall around the Earth.
How do we know they weren't educated?
Well, people would know how to farm. They would know how to cobble. They had crafts, but they didn't learn anything other than their crafts back then. Just didn't. We're lucky if you could write, or read.
Can we talk about how they tried to isolate refraction, only working in certain times but not other times? I'll give you an example. So refraction has to do with light and the conditions that light goes through. So once it hits a different medium, it changes direction, but light is always in a straight path until something like that happens. So you've seen this demonstrated many times with prisms and other things, where it redirects the light and so forth, or if it's something to that effect. Now, they are saying that refraction is the reason why you can't see the geometric horizon. Am I right? The physical?
Well, they say terrestrial refraction's the reason, but they're basing the terrestrial refraction calculation on the radius value, which is derived from the geometric horizon.
All right. So when they do the 7/6R, and they take the Earth's 6 of 6, and they add the 7 for that terrestrial part. So 7/6R. That's contained in their math. We know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're saying that, hey, it's refracted, and you would see it, meaning the physical geometric horizon. That would validate the 3959 globe model they got. If there was no atmosphere and light was not refracted. Am I saying that correctly?
Well, they might say that. They might verbalize it that way, but that's inaccurate, because when you said the word see, when they're describing it, what they're detailing is something that occurs in their mathematics. So they're describing the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, light bending at a rate of 7/6R or whatever they derive necessary on that day, around the presupposed sphere bending with a radius value. Well, all of those things are occurring in terms of their description of them in the maths, only in the maths. Now, they're describing what you're seeing with mathematics, but that doesn't mean it is what you see. Their description is merely the mathematics that they lay down within their model. Meaningless, doesn't... Go on, sorry.
Right, no, I'm glad you said that. So now I want to just isolate one part of that obfuscation in their argument. The minute we asked them to show us the geometric physical edge to prove their 3959, they bugaboo to refraction, and then they tie it up with their mathematics. Now, if we say the Earth is not a sphere, and it's a plane of some type with topography of mountains, valleys, and when you're looking at a vast ocean, the top of the ocean seems very flat. So if we say the Earth is flat based on our reality that we experience on a daily basis, do we not deal with light on a flat plane, as well as them saying we deal with light on a curved ball. I mean, light is light. It's here if it's flat, and it's there if it's a ball. So we are experiencing refraction on the plane. And when we describe what refraction is, it works on the plane just as they're trying to say it only works in mathematics on their ball to prove what they're saying.
Yeah, but the actual effects that we experience are negligible. Shout out to Sleeping Warrior.
But you have to be able to calculate it on a flat plane, right? Because isn't that what Andrew Thomas Young did?
Well, this is where I'm going to slowly with dissecting this, because I'll say, look, we experience refraction too. You can't say it could only be experienced on the ball. It's experienced in reality now. You're saying reality now is a ball, and we're saying prove it by the radius and the observer height. You can't prove it. But so if we say, you say, well, it can't work on the flat plane. No, it works, because light, when it hits a different medium, changes, converges, does all kinds of things. So if I'm on a plane, and we've seen so many examples of this, that the stuff in the atmosphere, the deck, as you said before, Nathan, angular resolution, the Rayleigh criteria, we've got all these great things that can be backed up with things that can be done and redone to work on the flat plane. So how can they say that refraction proves a ball when it actually works on the plane and proves what just refraction is? It has nothing to do with a ball.
Because you've got two different things going on. You've got a description of what occurs with light in reality, and you've got a description of what they describe happening on a ball Earth in maths. They're two completely different things. So when we have a refraction discussion with a globe head, their entire aim is to bait and switch one for the other. So they'll detail most of the time, pretty accurately, the effects of refraction. They'll be able to detail the effects. They'll give you a list of all the different descriptions. They'll go into great detail. But at some point, they will substitute out those actual effects that occur when you're looking at things, seeing things, with what happens in their mathematics, based on geometry and a physical sphere edge for a horizon, in their maths. But that's just merely their mathematical description of what they claim is a description of what we see. Now, that's not the cause. Absolutely not. But they claim it's the cause. That's what they assert. They say it's causing this to occur, i.e. the Earth curve's getting in the way, or if it's not, because it's a black swan, the Earth curve's being bent at the rate of Earth curve. All done in the maths. All just a mathematical description, and therefore reification if they claim it's actually what's occurring. It isn't. It's just maths.
Exactly. That's how these arguments are going, because when they play out, that's what we see.
Right.
So to me, isn't it simpler as long as the word reaction? I'm getting bad echo. As soon as somebody utters the word refraction on the globe side, can't we just point out if refraction is acknowledged, you can never measure the edge? Can
yeah,
we do
if you're gonna use R, you're gonna need R, to put it another way.
Well, to account for that, horizon number labeled with X, right? You have to measure it first to even come to the argument with the refraction. But it's like, it's a catch-22. As soon as you say refraction, then you can't say you measured R. And if you measured R, you can't say there's a refraction. One excludes the other.
Yeah, their refraction precisely. If you're going to use their geometric mathematical reification to describe what they claim is a physical sphere edge with a radius value calculable from that sphere edge, and then assert that light's being bent based on the radius value of that sphere edge, it all implodes, as we described at the beginning of the show. You can't base an R value refracted light in reality on something that can't be seen. Now, they're not doing that. There's a juxtaposition between the reality and their mathematical description and reification of a physical sphere edge that can't be seen.
If anything, they should, because for helping them come to terms with that, their physical sphere edge can't be seen. Because it's not really until the Black Swan that they started telling us that directly.
And it's going to take a few more months before they recognise, because there's still people who've presumably at some level heard the black swan argument that are still asserting that you've got physical sphere edge obstruction. And we're exposing currently the details of how and why that's been perpetrated throughout the masses. So 10th Man's doing a really great job of showing you how they say, here's all these different horizons. Just consider the one we see to be a physical one. Even though it's not, and it only exists in the maths. Well, we're telling you what you're telling us. We're all in agreement. We haven't got a geometric physical sphere edge horizon. It only exists in the maths. You can reify a mathematical geometric horizon that isn't capable of being seen or measured into a reality horizon that isn't physical in reality, but you think it is. That's the situation. Well, you know, you can think of it as being a physical horizon, like you can think of gravity as being a force, but it isn't. It's just in existence in the maths. It's merely a reification if you tell us that it's actually the reality we're faced with. It isn't.
Well, much like the astronomical horizon is an abstraction, the geometric horizon is just purely theoretical construct, not anything anyone could ever see.
Right, a philosophy, not reality. We don't have a physical sphere edge horizon. We don't have Earth curve. That's what you guys called it. Earth curve.
Way back in the day, like 2019?
Yeah. Well, when it's we cannot see the geometric horizon, we wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. What they actually paraphrase that, or what I will now paraphrase that to, is we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Because that's the very thing that's blocking things in the distance. We're not seeing anything curving, but they use the word Earth curve to assert that there's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon obscuring things in the distance with its physical nature. Well, if you say we don't expect to see that Earth curve, then you don't have Earth curve.
If you don't have Earth curve and you can't see it, what did Alberoni measure exactly?
He didn't. It's just a massive plot hole in their narrative.
Yeah, it just implodes. Like, you just don't have to go far. It's like...
Yeah. The response was to say he's within 5% of a position that only exists in maths.
If 5% of what?
Exactly.
Speaking of,
How would you know that again if you didn't see?
Yeah, how are you measuring within 5% of it if you can't measure it?
was it someone on this panel who did the math on 5%, and it was 3.47 miles, the black swan picture that physical Earth curve horizon would be instead of the 1.22? So even if you give them the 5%, which we're not, it would be at 3.47 miles instead of 1.22. And we know that Hill House and Habitat were well over 6 and 9.41 miles out. So they still fall short.
There we are again, juxtaposing the reality of what we see with their mathematics. Now, I appreciate that that's how the modus tollens argument is structured, but it doesn't change the fact that we still have that switch. We even have to verbalise it. We just have to make it more clear, and it occurs. So when you're describing the geometry and where the claim to be physical sphere edge horizon would have to be if you calculate out the horizon we see in the picture, their maths implodes. But it's still just a mathematical description as opposed to the reality we're faced with. And that's where their bait and switch will always occur, getting into the argument about what their maths says. And their maths is not reality, it's merely abstract.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that if they're going to say it's mathematics and we say to them it's mathematics and they say yes, but it works, then I'll say, fine. Then based on what you're saying within the 5%, that horizon that you say is well beyond the second platform at over 9.41 miles, even using your faulty mathematics, could be no further than 3.47.
Very interesting word you use there. Magical word. You said the word works. It's an interesting word because you can describe how the mathematical abstraction, quote unquote, works. It performs its mathematical function. That's what works means when you're describing abstract mathematics. Works, in quotes, means the maths will perform the mathematical function. Now, when they say works, the maths works, they imply that it's doing the physical Now, when you say, I'm doing work, that has a very different implication to a mathematical abstraction following its natural ends. Me doing work implies a physical aspect, a physical nature, by implication with the word work. Now, if I say that the maths works, and I'm describing something that's physical and real, like a photograph, the magic trick is to imply that you've got something doing something physical because you've described it with something abstract. So that word works is a magical word to perform the bait and switch operation in this little magic trick.
But it works on a globe.
There you go. There it is again. Works on a globe. Works in the mathematical reification that is the model. Right? Does that mean it's our reality? Well, no, but the word implies that because it's got a physical aspect to it. So words and spelling and grammar are how we have real magic. That's real magic. All magic is a way of achieving an outcome through verbalization and language. That's all magic is. You can program a nation to do things just by saying things. You know, the current lockdown, people have self-isolated because they've been told to do so. Well, that in itself is a magic trick. You know, grammar and grimoire, they are derivative words. Spelling means just that, to spell. So to understand where a good wordsmith has taken a word that has contextually different meanings and used it to imply physicality, in this instance with the word work, and reify the mathematics by using the same word that actually only applies to a function that never exists in reality. That's maths. Magic. We have got
what
one
model
housekeeping.
does this work on?
Go on.
Model we never see.
Say again. Say again.
I said, what model does it work on? The one that I've still never seen?
Yeah, but something working in a model, it's meaningless in physical reality. But if you say the word "it works," well, the model works. That leaves you with the impression that that's the physicality of things. Oh no. They just show you a graph. And there's the bait and switch done. Most of the time, in fact 99% of the time, people don't notice it's happened and will start arguing about the maths and how well the reification of their abstractions functions in reality. And it's like the two don't even mix. They're completely devoid of each other. The quantification of something in mathematics doesn't affect how something actually performs a function in reality. You're just quantifying it. But that's how they do it. They've taken mathematics.
That's where I think. Sorry, Nathan.
I was done. I was just reiterating the same point. Chocolate, go ahead.
No, I'm probably going off in a little bit different, just because I'm thinking that's where Soundly probably fucked up, because he came back thinking that that his side is still on looking at curvature, because apparently he thought he proved curvature with his little bendy bridge, right? Not understanding that in this argument now it's come back down to the math of his model.
No, he doesn't understand
that geometric horizon, the thing that he said, oh, it's word soup. I don't know what that is.
That's all an act. So Roger MC, who has spent frequent hours in this hangout, in this Discord server, while these shows are live, is Soundly. So while he might play dumb and claim it's word soup, what that is wishful thinking being portrayed out to an audience. Just make out like it's never happened. Oh, geometric horizon. Nah. Earth curve. I don't know what this geometric horizon is. Well, that's just an act. He knows exactly what the situation is. He just didn't realise that it would let slip that he was Roger MC. So Brian's Logic has exposed this a couple of shows ago. He didn't know someone was recording, and it let slip that he's basically been in this hangout. You can go back and look at the shows where I have the Discord server panel showed to the audience, and there he is, sat there not saying anything. Never said anything. Oh. Well, he was sitting and listening to
that name plenty of times, yeah.
So he knows exactly what it's all an act. What they're hoping for is this black swan will go away. Oh, what do you mean, geometric horizon? Ah, it's word salad. Meanwhile, I've got this Earth curve picture. Well, he knows exactly what the two are. He's been here. He's been listening to every discussion.
That snake.
Well, isn't that cute?
Would you expect
poisonous?
Would you expect anything less from the guy who was sat whispering into GeoStreamer's ear and then got audio guy to lie on their behalf? Would you expect anything less? These people wouldn't need to do this if they were on the right side of the winning argument. That's Flat Earth, by the way. We're on the right side of the winning argument. Flat Earth. Globe Earth has got to lie, cheat, deceive, come in on sock accounts, pretend to be someone else. You've got to do all that crap if you want to believe you're on a globe and you understand any of these arguments. As Soundly definitely does. He's sat listening to him.
And they claim that we're in an echo chamber.
The only way forward is to make sure the black swan fades into obscurity. Just keep calling it Earth curve, pretend this idea of a geometric horizon that's a physical sphere edge is word soup, and just go about your day reasserting Earth curve. They're the same thing. We've debunked Earth curve, the geometric physical sphere edge horizon formerly blocking boats and buildings, calculable in the, quote, Earth curve calculator. And what are you calculating? How much the horizon blocks stuff. That's your Earth curve. It's your geometric horizon that's dead. So yeah, you need little snakes like Soundly to sit in and go, how can we get our way around this? And when you realise there's no way out, just say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Geometric horizon, word salad. Look at my Earth curve pictures. No, it's not going to work. Earth curve is your geometric horizon that we can't see, hand wave. We do not expect to see Earth curve. That's what you're telling us. You don't have to like that. But that's the fact of the matter.
That's not what he's telling us, because apparently he was the only one that actually got an actual picture of the Earth curve, supposedly.
Who was it in Discord? Go on. Global Spanner? Rebel? Maybe it was... Who was it?
I was saying that he said word soup.
No, I was saying it seems like nothing we say actually registers with the Globers, and I think primary reason is because they think we're stupid, and they believe the space agency, and therefore anything we say, any argument we put forth just doesn't register.
I think it does, though. That's why they have to use all the tactics that they do.
I agree.
Because if it didn't,
I agree with you.
They would just debate it, properly, civilly. They realize how messed up their position is, which is why they have to do what they do. This is why Mr. Soundly, I've been in the game 3 years, got to sit on a sock, in the cut, trying to gather information, like a little spy. This is why they have to come in and rumpus and do all this other crap, because they don't have anything. If they did, they just come in, hey guys, it's a globe, and here I got this, and this, and yeah, you can shut the show down, and there you go.
And what did he get for his 3 or 4 months of reconnaissance? Oh well, sticking his head in his sand and pretending that it didn't exist and he didn't understand what it was all about, word soup, word salad. That was what he got for his 3 or 4 months of reconnaissance in the Discord server, listening to the arguments, listening to them unfold. With all the time in the world to figure out a rebuttal, his rebuttal was to say, I don't know what you're talking about. What geometric horizon? That's his rebuttal. Wow, fundies. Your guru Soundly's looking pretty pathetic.
Or you could have Rumpus saying scaredy cat 100 times.
Yeah, useless to us. Absolutely useless.
Or maybe they're agents of the state.
Speak up, Rebel. Say again.
No, I call them agents. You can't be that stupid for free.
Can't make out what you're saying. You've got away from your mic or something.
He said he calls them agents because he doesn't feel they could be that stupid for free.
It's all an act. He's not that stupid. He knows what the discussions were about. He sat in and listened to them on mute the entire time with this going, can you hear us, Roger MC? No reply. Well, now we know why. Well, for him to come back and play dumb, like he doesn't know, oh, what's the geometric horizon? Yeah, that's the rebuttal, because that's all you can do.
And I've seen that name all over. I've seen it in your chat, in the Discord, 24/7. If it's the same one, Roger MC, that's pretty good, man.
Hey, Nathan,
Paul.
I got
pretty pathetic.
Hey, Paul.
Nathan, I got something in Master Brief you could post from Andrew Thomas Young.
Sure. Okay.
When we had our back and forth and you brought in mathematics, I recalled this. Numerically, now notice that word. Would that fall within mathematics or actually?
I hope you're joking. Rhetorical.
I am joking, but I'm serious. He could have said actually, but he didn't. He said numerically, which really explains what you were saying, what they do with the math. So if you read this, you could just say mathematically, numerically, but you can't say actually. The radius of the Earth, the radius of the Earth varies a little with latitude and direction, but a typical value is 6378, about 3963 miles. If H is in meters, that makes the distance to the geometric horizon 3.57 kilometers times the square root of the height of the eye in meters, or about 1.23 miles times the square root of the height in feet. It's all math. Thank you, Andrew Thomas Young.
Perfect. We've got one last housekeeping question we didn't cover. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I couldn't hear you because the sound doesn't travel through a vacuum, which would be here if the Earth was a globe.
Traveling down fiber optic wire.
Yeah, but still, like the room between the speaker here and my ear, it would not be able to transfer that question to me in order for me to hear it, because there would be no gas pressure on Earth if it was a ball in outer space.
Yeah, I see. You're saying if the sky was a vacuum, there'd be no air for the speaker to excite for you to hear this information, me asking you if there's any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container.
Indeed.
I see.
There would be no speaker and no you to build a speaker. Ever.
Well, this came on the other day where the guy couldn't get it. The antecedent to pressure is what? What do you got to have pressure?
Container to press upon.
Right. That was the antecedent. He was trying to wiggle his way out of that, because the question is, how do you have gas pressure without a container when the only way you can have pressure is within the walls of a container?
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Wait, you were expecting what? Globe proof? Or a model?
So can we elaborate on the gas pressure without a container housekeeping question?
You wanted to add something? Did you want to add something, Rebel? Feel free.
Well, I'm just wondering how gas can coalesce in the vacuum. Like, how does that work?
Doesn't.
It works in the model.
There we are again, working in the mathematics. It doesn't work in the model.
Well,
When you say it works
in the rhetoric, the gas cools and starts to come together. So that's the rhetoric. So they all the kinetic energy, the 2,000 miles an hour, the elastic collisions, they stop doing all that. That's what happens in the rhetoric.
Ah, so they actually have an explanation how gas can coalesce in a vacuum.
Except in order to create a vacuum here, you need a container, and you got to get all the gas out of it. And if you didn't have the walls of the container, the gas would come back in.
Well, let's walk through the thought process. You got hydrogen has to come together with gravitational forces, has to cool down, and more collisions, it starts to heat back up, more collisions, cools down, more collisions, heats back up, keeps cooling down, but more collisions, keeps heating back up. To see how it doesn't make logical sense. So it doesn't work.
I'm sorry, but what gravitational forces can you talk about if there's no object? I mean, we're talking about the alleged formation of the planets, right?
Right. Well, I mean, they have to say that the kinetic energy slows down enough that they come together, but they don't collide. They kind of stick, and they keep coming together and keep sticking and keep sticking. Sticking.
Yeah, Paul. Now we're coming back to my original assessment with the Big Bang conception, and that is, the way they describe it, how things form, you can only draw one conclusion. When the Big Bang happened, it expanded within the entire container of the universe, or nothing could ever settle. It's impossible, theoretically even.
You guys gonna just throw the rebellious gas particles under the bus like that? Come on, man.
This is before that. This is before the matter even comes together. Like, if it's all constantly expanding, then how could it ever come together? It's all constantly expanding. So it has to settle in the container first, that ultra microplasma or whatever that's supposed to be, that later form matter. It has to first expand within the confines of the container before it could even settle.
Well, think about it though. You got to stop and think about it. You made me lose my. Wait a minute. I think I lost my train of thought. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it back.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
The point was it's not settled, right? To say it's keep expanding.
Well, I mean, okay. Now I think I know what I was saying. For gas to coalesce, that is a decrease in entropy. That means gravity would have to decrease entropy, which would violate the second law.
Exactly. We used to say to Anthony, have gravity, have both of your nonsense forces, have them at 1,000%. It makes no difference to entropy.
Again, that would be cool, because then I would never have to worry about my soda going flat, but those are the breaks.
Yeah, gas particles just don't want to hang out around each other or around anything.
Right.
Right.
And you would think it would be more effective here. I mean, I'm on the ground, right? That's supposedly where their fantasy story about gravity is supposed to be the strongest, right? While being the weakest force that they don't even consider it a force in their little standard model of physics, whatever. But let's not worry about that. So supposedly that weakest force is how we have our atmosphere. But yet I can't even keep the gas in my Coke from going up out of the Coke. That's cute. But that's happening on a bigger scale, right? Right.
Wait, Chocolate, you mean the bubbles in your Coke? Are they kind of like little bouncy balls that you can't see until they get out and then they escape?
Go down, boom, boom.
Bouncy balls, yes.
Yeah. Gas bubbles are bouncy ball, people.
Yeah, when I open the can and go, tss, and then all the carbonation in there somehow escapes. It's like, man, if only that gravity could violate that second law, bro. I'd have a nice, crisp,
the amount of my day I
soda
spend
all day.
I spend
So,
sweeping
Chocolate,
up.
are you saying that's why their argument fizzles?
I spend so much of my day sweeping up all those gas particles off the floor. Pain in the ass. Because they all go down, go boom, boom.
Boom, boom, go splash, splash. Oh, man.
The retort to your example would be you have to have a can the size of, I don't know, a few miles top high to experience the attraction of gas molecules by gravity.
Yeah, that's got a name. It's called a special pleading fallacy.
Yeah.
May I
I
ask a
don't know if you
question?
remember, Nathan, you and I once upon a time took on Wiggles, who I still see mingling around in the chat from time to time.
Who? I didn't catch who you said.
Some time ago, you and I took on Wiggles. You remember Wiggles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still see him lurking in the chat from time to time. But that's where the first time I hear sort of the example of container in the gas argument I've heard. And Wiggles' response was, well, if you have a container tall enough, you can experience vacuum and gas pressure at the same time. And it basically would be the same kind of fallacy special pleading fallacy.
But that's not just a fallacy, that's also a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
Well, naturally.
How exactly?
Gas would fill space. Entropy would increase.
How does the second law of thermodynamics say that?
How does the law of entropy describe the change that would occur?
Yeah, entropy would increase, filling the gas container with the gas that's in the container. There's not going to be a part in the container where there's no gas, because gas doesn't do that.
Granted, does that trump the conservation of energy? Like, does entropy increase even if the energy to increase the entropy is not present?
Don't understand your question.
To reach that state, for example, if you have water, a glass of water in a vacuum, put it in a vacuum chamber, it will quite happily stay a liquid, even though its entropy is higher if it is a gas, if it becomes steam. Why does water remain liquid?
It doesn't.
Of the conservation of energy. It doesn't have the energy required to
it doesn't.
become steam.
Hello? It doesn't. You think you can put a glass of water in a vacuum and it'll just stay a glass of water? No.
You're sure about that?
Yeah, I'm sure about that.
Yeah, I know
You're
this
sure
guy.
about
He's just
that?
gonna
Yeah, I'm
drone
sure about
on.
that.
Under lower pressure, the water will start to evaporate.
Yeah, obviously.
It will boil up.
Dramatically
boiling
decreases
point
the
for water will
boiling point
decrease.
of the
That
water.
doesn't mean that there can never be any liquids in a vacuum.
Sorry, is there a point to this other than your incorrect assertion? What's the point? What's
Well,
the point you're making?
wait a minute, Nathan.
The point
Prove
is,
it. Show me that when there's liquid.
even under atmospheric pressure, water would have a higher entropy as a gas, as steam, than it has as a liquid.
So we have entropy. So you understand that?
It does not become steam because it does not have the energy to become steam, to be steam. So conservation of energy thus trumps entropy, obviously.
You can have entropy increase without changing energy.
Obviously,
Gas expansion into a vacuum. You could do that without.
If the increase in entropy requires energy that is requires an input of energy that is not present, then this increase in entropy cannot happen.
All right. And do we live in a state where we don't have any energy being inputted?
And I did not say that.
So what the fuck is your point, you stupid twat? What are you babbling about? What has this nonsense got to do with anything? It just seems like you're talking nonsense.
Okay, my point is, do you need to input energy to raise in altitude?
And?
To raise altitude, do you need to...
Sorry, what? And what is the point of that statement? Even if I accept it or disagree with it, what is the point of this?
The point is that you need to input energy in order to raise away from the Earth, right? If the energy is not present, and because gas particles have a finite...
And I've already covered this. Do we live in that situation?
We live in that situation.
Do we live in that situation? Or do we have this massive entropy generating thing in the sky called the sun?
Okay, and you did work...
Yo, you stupid fucking deaf twat! I'm annihilating your point. Don't just whistle past it. We don't live in this scenario, you stupid fucking moron. Yo! Moron! We don't live in this scenario, though, do we?
Okay.
Not okay. That renders your point completely pointless. So, yet again, we're dealing with a globehead fuckwit fundy, wasting a lot of our time with a non-point, and when I point out that this isn't relevant, we don't live in that scenario, I get, okay.
If it is relevant, I never said that the sun is relevant as well.
Yeah, so we're not in a scenario where we don't have energy being input, which is the scenario you're laying down. So shut up!
I did not say
Shut
that.
the fuck up!
I did not
Shut
say
up!
that.
You stupid moron! Shut up! You don't have a point. This isn't relevant. That's not the scenario we live in, and now you won't shut up. You are so intolerable, you stupid prick. Now you will not shut up. Now I'm going through how pointless your nonsense was. You will not shut up. So, your point isn't relevant. Can you shut up and listen to how wrong you are and how pointless that was? Can you do that?
Can I
shut up and listen? Can you do that?
One sentence. I never said there is no...
No, he can't shut up and listen. He's going to babble on about what he fucking said. We've heard what you said, you bunch of spastic globeheads. I sat here and listened to his fucking nonsense, didn't I? Anybody in disagreement that I listened to his abject shite?
No, you listened.
Right. So, fuckwits of the globe side of this argument, I listened to his shite. Then I pointed out how utterly nonsensical it was and how it bore absolutely no fucking relevance to anything. Now, I did that on no less than 3 separate occasions, and when I start getting frustrated with the stupid twat because he won't shut up, he then won't listen and says, "You're not listening to me." Now, this is the kind of fuckwittery we have to deal with on an almost daily basis. Some nonsense shite getting spouted for no reason, and when we pull it apart and point out how nonsensical it is, they refuse to shut up. Get out. Why are you here? You get smashed and then you just rumpus the crap out of the rebuttal that's coming your way. We patiently listen to his nonsense, even gain clarity where we can't hear him because his mic's so utterly shite. We get him to repeat the bits so we can hear them clearly. But then when it comes to us refuting it, no, it's non-stop interruptions. Non-stop parroting. Non-stop claims that we haven't understood. Endless nonsense. No, you don't have a point. We don't live in a scenario where we're not having energy not injected into the system we live in. Completely erroneous nonsense. Will I get an opportunity to point that out without actually shutting him up? No, of course not, because it makes him look like a stupid prick with a nonsensical point. Now, does he want to have me point that out concisely without interruption? Absolutely not. So it's non-stop interruption from a bloody school child. Badly behaved school children, that's what we deal with here. They don't tolerate being told off because we're on the internet. Can't grab him and sit him down and strap a dunce hat on him and have all the other school kids point and laugh. No, we're on the internet. He can just talk over me constantly so an audience doesn't get to hear him being told off and have his nonsense pointed out, because what he can do is stand on the table and disrupt. And when I actually get to the point where, no, I can't stop a conversation that's being nice because he won't allow it, at that point I've got to shut him up. And what will I get in the comments? Oh, you didn't give him an opportunity to be heard when we all clearly heard his nonsense.
Yeah, you asked him, like, what is your point? And then he started to repeat the exact same train of thought again.
Well, he came in with the exact point of when Nathan said that gas, make that extra long tube, and at some point there won't be gas. And he said, well, that would be a violation of the second law. And he said, well, how would that violate the second law? He came in on that.
What he needs to do is argue for a scenario where entropy does not apply. So that's what he's arguing for. A situation and scenario that is not applicable where entropy doesn't apply. It's a law of nature!
Is there any scenario where you can remove all the heat from the universe? Is there a scenario for that?
Mathematically, I'm sure they could derive one.
Well, but innately, molecules have their own kinetic energy, which means they have their own heat. So ultimately, you can never get rid of it. There would always be some level of heat in the universe. Now, you could say that it would be unusable, unworkable, and it'd be spread out evenly, but there would still be some level of kinetic energy going on inside the molecules. So you can't get rid of it. You can never reach absolute zero, ultimately.
Right, you're kind of bordering on describing the first law.
Now he brought in conservation of energy, and you brought in the sun. Can you summarize why he conveniently left out the sun?
Because it would input a massive amount of energy.
And that energy takes the form of heat, right? Heat.
Yeah.
Did I hear him clearly, though? Did he say that you can't have entropy without some type of energy change or input?
Yeah. And then when it gets to the point of me pointing out that that's the scenario we're under, even if we entertain his nonsense, which I was, he still won't allow the rebuttal. None of them will. And why won't they tolerate a rebuttal? Well, because in this argument, if he concedes, or in any way listens to the rebuttal, in some way implying that he might be capable of conceding, he will receive the most vindictive ridicule from his own side. Now, they've all been trained and they've all been here long enough to know that it's a much better way of dealing with the situation to just not let your opponent talk. Just jump up and down on the desk and cause a massive disturbance. Better that than the pain and suffering he'll receive at the hand of his own side.
Pathetic.
Honestly, I couldn't get to understand his example. Even though he was going on and on. That's the thing. The way he talks is just... I couldn't understand where he's going with this.
Oh, I understood. He needs to create a scenario where entropy doesn't apply. It is just that simple. That's what he's arguing for. Create a scenario in a setting where it's not applicable, and then claim that Earth is the same setting as the scenario he's derived. Simple. Make entropy not apply to the Earth. In its most simplistic form, quote, the rumpus. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth. Yes, it does. It's a natural law. It absolutely, without question, applies to the Earth. But they need it not to.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah, now it makes sense what he was trying to do. It's all hypothetical, mumbo jumbo. Hey, I have a question. How big in the power of, the vacuum cleaner, like in the Spaceballs, Mega Maid? I love that movie. How big of a vacuum one would have to suck the atmosphere out? Hypothetically.
When you say suck the atmosphere out, it doesn't work that way. The gas that you're describing, so Earth's gas, will just expand in all directions and fill the availability of whatever volume there is available to it. So there's no setting where there's like a dome, in the case of Druidia, around an Earth that's suddenly going to be removed. And it's like, well, how much does the outside space have to have a differential vacuum. It's like you're setting up a scenario where you've already got containment around the gas for it to have a differential for it to go into as a consequence of the barrier being removed. Well, that's a fairly convoluted setting. In reality, all gas wants to do is fill the volume it has to fill. That's all it wants to do. And fill it must. The description of how it does that, the process, is entropy.
No, I maybe misunderstood where I was going with this, but yeah, it's still a good point. Like just giving, even conceding the gravity, right? Or a force that keeps whatever it keeps down. My question would always be, how big of the vacuum cleaner do you have to attach to the atmosphere to suck it out? What is the power value of that vacuum cleaner?
Well, it doesn't even need to be. It doesn't need to be a vacuum at all. It just needs to be a differential. So in the same way, you've got, say, 14.7 psi. You're at sea level and you're filling your tyres up. Well, there's no vacuum involved. If you press the valve on the tyre, the difference in pressure will equalise. Right, the gas in the tyre will fill the available volume it's got to fill. And as they bounce around at higher pressure in the tyre and eventually hit the valve, the tyre pressure will just go out of the valve and equalise with the pressure around it. No vacuum required, just a difference in pressure.
Yeah, like when Mega May got there and let's say they opened the hatch. Well, Mega May didn't really need to suck it out. The gas would just leave the container
and
fill the space.
Right? That's the thing that I'm.
I would love to run into Mel Brooks and be like, it's very interesting that you put a nice big container around the Earth in that movie.
Yeah,
because otherwise that joke would have worked out, huh?
Imagine the gas is like a sniper's rifle. If Thunderfoot can use bouncy balls, I can use bullets. Imagine that the sniper rifle's bullet, however, is just got infinite energy. It'll just travel in the trajectory it's travelling in until it hits whatever the bullet hits, and then it bounces off and bounces back down again. Now, in the case of the Druidia example with Megamaid, right, you've got bazillion different snipers all firing up at the roof, and every time they fire up at the roof, it hits the roof and bounces back down again, right? That's essentially a very simplistic way of describing how gas behaves. It just flies off in whatever direction it's flying until it hits something. Now, it might hit another gas particle, but ultimately speaking, it's just going to fly off in whatever direction it's going until it hits something. Now, in the case of the Druidia example, you've got a sniper is firing up at the roof, and then they open a hatch. Well, all that happens is the sniper's bullet doesn't hit the roof. It just goes through the hatch and just keeps on going. And that's precisely what gas would do. You open up the hatch of Druidia, and instead of the gas particle formally hitting the hatch and bouncing back down again, keeping it here, it just goes straight off into the space and just carries on going. And there's no reason whatsoever for it to bounce, because there's nothing to bounce off. So off it goes, never to return. And eventually, like with the tyre, the air inside the tyre is bouncing off the rim, bouncing off the rubber, bouncing off the rim, bounces off a hole in the valve and comes out. Well, once it's come out of the valve into free space, it's not going to go back in the valve again unless you forcibly push it back in. So it's gone, never to return. And the same principle will apply with us on Earth. The gas would simply dissipate and never come back again because it's not bouncing off anything.
I'm going to use the example of Thunderfoot, of bouncy balls, gas, molecules. The idea most people have in their head is these things are somehow attracted by the force of gravity, right? I mean, we're working against the cognitive dissonance here. What you're saying makes sense, Nathan. When I was trying to just help people visualize the absurdity of the situation using space balls. Meaning, you guys can hear me, or am I talking to myself here?
No.
Now, 10th
I was
man
trying
just
to cut
talking to
in.
you.
I said you can't use that because Thunderfoot's saying that gas is a solid, so it can't even use that.
Right. No, under the idea of, I'm using the idea of the particles being attracted towards the surface of the Earth, right? Because that's the whole principle, the non-existent
I see.
helium model.
I'll preface it for you then. In that case, what we all need, 10th man, is a bit of violin music and the fantasy being set for solids being, gas being solid bouncy balls. So,
excellent.
Right, we all convinced that in our imagination land that gas is now going down, go boom boom like bouncy balls. We all cool with that?
Yeah, but I'll never be burping again, I think.
No, you'll sweep up your burps off the floor, but we'll just forget that for now. Go ahead, Rebel.
Maybe.
Yeah, so that example with Megamaid, what's peculiar is, to me, the way I think about this is when I'm trying to visualize this and put the visual picture for people to see is, if you have a chamber, let's say with pressurized gas, and you put other chamber on top, which is we can think of it as a vacuum cleaner, and then depressurize it, create a vacuum, and then open the hole between the two containers, the bottom container with the pressure will equalize the gas and the pressure with the top container, right? And then people follow that. Yeah, right. Okay, so what if I do the same?
No. The gas will just stay in the bottom container. It's not like my bullets example back before the violin music, because it doesn't just, it gets to where the valve was opened and it just arbitrarily decides to go back down, go boom boom.
Right. So right now we're working on the smaller scale. People have different physics in their mind when we move it to a bigger scale. So we're just keeping it like at the really easy level, even though you played the violin music. So just an example in our minds, like two containers, you open the hole, they equalize. Great. So what happens if you have 10 times the size of a container on top, which is the depressurized? You open the hole, what's going to happen? Same thing going to happen? Less of a thing going to happen? The pressure will equalize? What if you have 1,000 times the size? What if you have 1,000,000? What about 1,000,000,000? And once you extrapolate that, and when the example of a Megamaid and the space balls, it kind of makes sense that they put the visual of the barrier around the Earth, because I see no difference between the vacuum cleaner as a device versus vacuum of space. It's one and the same thing to me.
I think it's time for Paul to put up that GIF of the gas particles bouncing and then the lid slightly is jarred, and see how quickly it dissipates.
If he's willing for a shilling. You okay, Brian? Right.
Hey Nathan, hey everyone. Hello, how are things?
Good. Before you got here, we were discussing Soundly / Roger MC.
Sorry, say that to me again. I'm at putting you that part.
We were discussing Soundly, Roger MC / Soundly before you got here.
Oh yeah. He, I saw it on one of Chemo's videos at the start of the video. I don't think he realised he was being recorded. Whatever hangout Chemo was getting them from, and someone came in. It was just all ballers in there. Someone came in who was a baller, and they heard Soundly. They said, "Soundly, you in here? I can't see it. That's me there. I'm Roger MC."
Wow, isn't that cute?
The chat in Quantum Racers there night. I just put out that for everyone to know that Roger MC is Soundly. And Roger MC said, "Brian, LOL, as if it's a big joke." I said, "Well, I have the audio." And he disappeared for 20, 40 minutes. And then he came back. Oh, he's sad. Another pretender, you know what I mean? Little soccer games. Why can't they just be themselves?
The whole
stand-up guy.
The whole word salad geometric horizon. Total bollocks. All an act.
Yes. He's been around all the time. He saw everything. He did not see the black swan. He did see the black swan. Just another liar.
Another demonstration of scummy behaviour by ballers. Wouldn't be necessary if it was true.
Yeah, exactly. There'd be no need for that. No need for it.
Is he in here right now?
Did he ever give Dave Rakia or anyone else? Did they ever say anything about the fact that they did the same observations that he did from the same places, and they didn't get the same results? Did they ever give any response to that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, they say I didn't take it from the same elevation, same angle, and all that. That's what they say. I didn't
Dave,
take it from the 15th floor.
He was on the 15th floor, wasn't he?
Yeah, through glass. But what he doesn't show you, you can take his pictures and show miraging on his pictures, like but he doesn't show that, right? He doesn't ever talk about that. You look at the bottom of the water; it's being mirrored. It's just more of the same. Just being disingenuous. I mean, that's all it is. Now, when they did their model and their GPS tracking, that's it's either straight up deception or I can't explain that. They did the modeling first and then everything matched perfectly. It just sounds like a story to me.
Yeah, of course it matches perfectly. GPS, it all matches perfectly because GPS maps everything out in Cartesian coordinates. So everything is mapped flat in GPS, and it gives you your coordinates in latitude and longitude. GPS is flat out. This is the nonsense that they try and push. So mapping it in GPS means it's mapped in flat to bonks them,
Yeah. I'm sitting in my truck right now pouring a slab, and the engineer was next door checking my other slab, right? He's checking the elevation. And I asked him, I said, look, this slab is level, right? Within quarter inch or so. He says, no, it's all four corners are dead level, right? And I said, okay, so if I leapfrog this elevation for a mile, do you think you could check it to dead level? And he said, yeah, I could check it no problem. I said, okay, what if I put the top of that form over water? Would it be the same distance over that mile from the top of this form to the top of the water? He said, absolutely. I mean, this was 10 minutes ago. I was talking to the surveyor. They all know, right?
Hold on, Brian. Just make a conclusory statement. That's a word, Dave.
Yeah, they all know, right? But the surveyors that we deal with on the Glober side will tell you without a doubt that wouldn't work, right? You couldn't get that level. It would follow the curvature of the Earth. And that's not reality. You could we're not even worried about the ground or the water or whatever. We're just taking a point, an elevation, and we're carrying that out. And we can carry it out for a mile or 2 miles or 3. We can carry it out forever.
Okay, but you're saying we know that the geodetic surveyor's assertion that if you beg the question based on a datum that you're on a sphere. However, you said the world isn't like that. What is it like?
It's a flat plane, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Sorry, I didn't realise you were speaking. Dave, if you go to my channel, I have a video put up there 2 days ago. It just says, Jesse knows it's flat. And it has a green Cartesian coordinates picture. You'll see it. You'll easily see it. It's only like 2 minutes, 59 seconds long or something like that. Or 3 minutes long or something. And I just have a clip from Jesse Kozlowski saying on Jose's that the native coordinates that come out of GPS is Cartesian coordinates. And he even states that each coordinate is a box system. It's a box system. That's what it is. Now, boxes have flat edges, flat bottoms, flat tops. The definition of a box will tell you that. And to have conjoined boxes, which is what you'd have to have, and what GPS would have to use, then you'd have to have a flat surface to work off of. So all this nonsense about GPS, it's always referencing a flat Earth. Always. So
Why don't you post, Brian, post those 2 pictures from yesterday.
Which 2 were they?
The one I sent you, where that guy took a flashlight of the globe model and that had.
Oh yeah, I'm just on my phone, so if I have to go out here to go, could you post it because I can't.
Sure.
I can't.
Sure, and then you can comment on it. I'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'm just looking on Hangouts. Thanks, Nate. But yeah.
By the way, Roger MC is here too.
I don't know what that was. Sorry, someone saying something there?
Yeah, I said Roger MC is here too in the chat.
Well, the Soundy is also here then. Dave, surveying, military, navigation, airliners, they all use Cartesian coordinates. They have to. Cartesian coordinates are flat Earth coordinates. It's all converted to latitude and longitude. And it's converted to the flat Earth Gleason's or AE map first. Then it's converted to whatever else. So any nonsense about GPS, they're always, and you can use that quote, Dave, that Jesse Kozlowski quote in my video. You can just use that to play the audio on Jose's. You know?
Did you want to say hello to Soundly, Brian?
I don't really know him, to be honest with you, but I'd say hello to Roger MC because I had a few overs and backs with Roger MC, all right. Hello, Roger.
Is that Soundly for sure?
Well, that was on Chemo's video. That's who he called himself. That's who he said he was, Roger MC.
Nathan, can you check Master B so Brian could comment on these screenshots?
Sure. I've got nothing come through yet.
All right, I'll check.
Not going to say hello, Geo Whisperer? We've been discussing you playing dumb about the word soup of the geometric horizon, given that you've been here the whole time. No comment? Howard. We're talking to you, Fraudly. No? Just going to sit in silence on your little sock account there, are you, Soundly?
Come on, Soundly, you can do it. Tell us about geometric horizon.
Did it come through this time, Nathan? You might have to.
Got a picture of somebody casting a shadow down over a hollow ball. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, showed this to Brian yesterday. So this guy took a flash, that's an LED light, but it can work with a phone light as well, as he showed in the video. And this hollowed sphere with the sections as you see, as he brings the light closer and closer to it, look what happens at the bottom next to the flat map with the latitude, longitude. It's the exact same. It's exactly what Brian's been telling us about the Cartesian coordinate system. It's a nice visual for it, at least.
Cool.
Yeah, it just shows how easily they could put them around a sphere, stretch them out a bit and convert them, to latitude and longitude. And actually, I have to say something that Bev was saying to me yesterday, something that I failed to point out, is that latitude and longitude is a 2D coordinate system. It's not even three-dimensional. You know, they have to use a three-dimensional, which is Cartesian, and they have to use a flat, which is Cartesian. But that's reality.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Dent.
My pleasure.
Got it up for the audience, but obviously you can't see it in the Hangout.
Every time anyone claims anything about navigation using any kind of satellite system, they're always, well, so let's say supposed satellite system, whatever they call it. People should know on the flat earth side, they're always referencing a flat earth. So all supposed satellite systems use a flat earth. Wolfie and all these nonsense, he's always referencing a flat earth. All these coordinates start as flat earth coordinates. You know, because he's a pilot. All pilots have to use flat earth coordinates. Military flat earth coordinates. Anti-ship cruise missiles. They fly low to they fly below 30 foot off the water most of the time, and sometimes lower, for many miles. And their coordinate system is Cartesian coordinates. You know, so
their horizontal in their system is horizontal, their vertical is vertical. As you put it, it's a box.
Yes.
Therefore, flat plane. Simple as that.
Can't be anything else.
Yeah, it's measuring flat. Because it is flat.
Exactly.
Yeah, length and width, not height.
So, back to Roger MC slash Soundly.
Can I just add in one thing there before we go on to Roger MC?
Sure.
The anti-ship cruise missiles have to know their height. Now, they can't know that with attitude and longitude. They can only know that with zenith, which means Cartesian coordinates. Just in case anyone wants to pull that out on a flat earther.
Right, but that's
Okay,
how they
thank you.
start, don't they? They utilise the assumption that the zenith is pointing to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
Oh yeah, I mean, they can say the zeniths are all divergent, but they still can't use geographical coordinates. They still have to use flat earth coordinates.
Right, that's why you end up
Because-
with a disco ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of little flat sections like on a mirror ball, because they're mapping it all out
Exactly.
with the Cartesian boxes, and then when they move over and then start the process again, they start by presupposing that the zenith, i.e. a line coming out of the top of your head pointing upwards, is actually pointing at a given angle based on a datum that they'll reference. So they'll say, no, well, this particular one is actually now pointing at a slightly different angle, but from here on out, we'll map out this tangent plane, meaning tangent we've presupposed we're on a sphere, and plane, what they're actually measuring, flat.
Yeah.
Stuff, Brian. It's been very informative. You and Bev recently have been, like, top form, you know what I mean?
Thanks, Nathan. We're going after them surveyors. I suppose it's surveyors.
Right. So, back to the word soup / word salad. You going to get any comment? Been here the whole time, soundly.
He's only okay in chats, I suppose, because I see him chatting.
I see. But we know who you are, soundly. You've been sat in all of these conversations about the Black Swan, only to reappear on camera saying that it's word salad, word soup, you don't know what we're on about. You're just playing dumb. We know. Gig's up.
He wants to be Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Bigs up, man.
What happened? We got Sally in the building?
MC, Roger MC, yeah. That on his stock account. Doing reconnaissance.
Hey, Neil deGrasse Tyson, come on. We'll pretend you're Neil deGrasse Tyson. Roger MC, come on.
Yeah, like we pretended you weren't whispering to GeoShifter. GeoStreamer, rather. No, nothing to say for yourself. What an abject coward.
Maybe he's looking for someone else to come in and pretend he's him. As in, someone with a different voice and try and disprove it.
Exactly.
Of course. Would you expect anything less?
No, I'd say exactly what I'm expecting. Sorry, Chocolate.
What a sad little existence. Guys live to debunk us and tell us how wrong we are and prove it's a globe, but this is what y'all do. It's just becoming more pathetic every day. And it's very obvious that it's pathetic. I put normies onto you guys. I let them listen to the show. They don't even think you guys are real people. I've had people ask me, is this scripted? Like, are these people real? Because they can't really be saying the things that they say. And I say, yep. Yeah, they do. So, yeah, that's y'all.
With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!